So I had the opportunity today to go down to one of my favorite cafes. They've got this Observer local magazine. I've always enjoyed going down there on Siesta Key, getting a smoothie, a bagel, and reading that paper. So on the third page, I'll try to link to it if I can today. It has the whole issue with the school board and what's going on. It has the school board's opinion there. And what the school board is citing, Sarasota County, is that they are short-staffed because of the lack of masking. So basically their argument from the superintendent level, who's trying to play it off like Dr. Asplin is our superintendent here, and he's trying to play it off like, oh, it's what the board is deciding and I'm residing over it, but the buck stops with him. And what he's doing and what the three members of the board are doing is completely illegal and a jailable offense in Florida law, and so we're going to have to figure out, what DeSantis is going to do on it. I think at this point in time, it's like our governor's just going to let it play slow and let it play out. So we're playing at the local level, which is the proper way to do. You really don't want to set precedents where your governor sends state troopers to a board meeting to collect those 3 or 4 individuals that are literally creating an illegal state county policy against state law. You don't want to do that. But of course, the Biden administration has jumped in and said, well, anyone who, gets fired or anything like that, we'll take care of them. We'll put them on the payroll, we'll make sure things are good. So what we're staging for here in Sarasota is we're inviting the federal level to come into the local level because we have one of two things happening in our local school board. Either one, these individuals are completely incompetent and inequipped to handle the job that they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. So either one, the managerial class is completely incompetent. These individuals that have advanced degrees, doctorate degrees, studied education, maybe taught classes but probably never really did. They basically essentially studied administration. They studied organization. They studied how to do these things. So either one, they're totally incompetent and have no ability to staff themselves with substitutes, to do live streaming for their classes, to figure out a way to organize and to adjust, like a private business would do this within minutes. I mean, maybe a day, max, like the video yesterday, I'll link to it. My friend Jeff, completely, he's got his business handled, got a couple people out sick, no big deal. He's backed up a couple days, he'll get through it. So either one, these highly educated, which unrare, I mean, there are just so many of these individuals highly educated that were educated in a school system that I worked to go against as far as higher education, as far as the Marxism and communism that is taught naturally at the higher level. I mean, you go to any 4-year school and then you go to a grad degree, do a doctorate program after that. Yeah, odds are is that you're being influenced by a lot of, if nothing else, socialistic ideas, possibly communistic, and on the really far end, maybe even Marxist concepts. And so maybe you take some of that and, you're left-leaning, but you're not completely Marxist. You get into a job, and here you are in your 50s on the school board, and you have absolutely no real employable skills, and one, you're showing your level of incompetence, which is pretty high, but for the most part, the Sarasota School District has kept it together because the working class, the teachers in the classroom, have stepped up for the absolute incompetence at the managerial level. That's one theory. The second theory, I guess, and you're seeing this at all levels in society now, that managerial class, even in the U.S. military, that managerial class, completely incompetent, but it's a theory, not saying the school board of Sarasota County is also incompetent, but the class as a whole, as far as our entire nation, completely incompetent, especially when you frame those individuals against their Chinese peers. Totally incompetent. Or the second theory, these individuals, lower ranking, political type of individuals, are making a political statement for political gain to set up their next piece of the agenda, which is like, we essentially in this state have allowed parents to have freedom of choice whether or not their students will go to school with a mask. That is the parent's choice. Hey, if your kid's more comfortable with it, have them go in a mask. If he's not, don't have them go in a mask. Here's what's occurring. The high school and the middle school are not complying. Our local high schools and middle schools are not complying. Right? The kids are doing whatever they want. They're in middle school, high school. Our elementary school, our little kids are complying. I have a daughter in one of these schools. Send her to school with a note. Send her to school with a mask. Here's your note. Here's your mask. This is your note for freedom. It's got the executive order. It's got the whole thing. Like, this is, you don't have to wear a mask because it's state law. This is your mask. Well, I don't want to wear a mask, but I don't want my teacher to be mad at me. And that's a completely fair argument for a 7-year-old girl, and a position we shouldn't have a 7-year-old girl involved in. Of course, we know that the second graders, 7-year-olds, the kindergartners, the 5-year-olds, we know that they're not really a high risk for this disease, if you will, that's running around anyway. In most cases, they're asymptomatic. They're not causing any of these problems, the younger kids. Super healthy immune systems are not causing any issues. And that's fact. I mean, regardless of who your source is, even the CDC at this point in time agrees with that. And their data changes, depending on the news story. But those individuals are complying, and they're being socially conditioned by a woke school board. So either one of two things is happening. One, they're incompetent, and they know nothing what to do, and they're like, well, maybe we'll try masks, even though there's no data supporting that masks are effective at all. In fact, for all we know, they're probably super spreaders. And there are central contact points. So if we were to really do some black light, trace this, you would probably see a hot spot right there on someone's face where they touch, and then you'd see that, and then on door, you'd see it everywhere. Center right here. Or they're socially conditioning through a socialistic, communistic, or neo-Marxist type of philosophy, whether they believe it or not. They're essentially saying, nope, we're the authority and we're going to limit individual choice, even though nobody gave them a constitutional privilege or a vote on that decision to take the rights of individuals, and particularly the parents in this case. Nobody gave them authority. Nobody. Let me be clear with this. At this point in time, the governor can send troops if he wants to. He can send in his guard, he can send in his state troopers, he can do whatever he wants, and literally arrest these 3 individuals, including the superintendent, Dr. Asplin, and take them to the most fun jail that we have to offer. The problem with that is it puts Sarasota on the map, and this is what local residents need to understand, because the Biden administration will come in, because they don't have enough shitstorms going around the world right now. So they will come in and overstep the governor, and what will happen is we will enter into a gridlock with the federal government. And we will have this gridlock, and we will accelerate the situation with a big magnifying glass on Sarasota County. My message to these 3 individuals and this absolute wuss of a man, Dr. Asplin, an absolute, what a cop-out. The article alone, I'll put it in the description. Well, at what point he just wants his hands off? What an absolute coward of a man. But he's also going against his governor's orders, whether he likes it or not. And thankfully, the governor has had the wisdom to restrain from creating precedents on how we deal with individuals like Dr. Asplin. But make no mistake, it's going to be dealt with one way or another. These things are going to happen. But the idea that we need to have Sarasota as the spotlight for this, no. We need to dial down the tempo, tell these 3 people to take a hike, reverse the illegal mandate, and pretend that they weren't using our children as political pawns to gain favor at the federal level, or at least attention. And at worst case, absolute worst case assumption, they were attempting to condition young children into a new way of American culture. That's a very far-fetched thing, but not uncommon from what's taught at the graduate level and the doctorate level. And I know, because I helped an individual or an organization direct $40 million a year as to how we would battle those. And we did that over a decade ago. And it's still continuing today. We've lost that fight completely. Completely lost the idea for free markets, individual freedom. We've lost all of that in the higher educational system. And now we have this incompetent managerial class, which is probably the more likely assumption. Or we have an extremely satanic agenda that they're pushing on our young and our most vulnerable kids. I hope it's not the second. But either way, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching.